The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit by using insights from the LinkedIn network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases, unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online, and a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business, you'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, May 18th, 2026. On the show today, in news, why is Disney buying electric car batteries? Is Universal prepping a new drone show? And what's the best day of the week to visit the Magic Kingdom? Plus surveys and listener questions. Then in our main segment, Jim tells us the story of a Disneyland ticket scandal. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says counting to 10 only makes your response premeditated. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Who counts to 10 anymore, Len? I mean, hell, when I was growing up with my dad, it was always, I'm going to give you to the count of 3. So I don't know. What does that tell you? Either my father was not very patient or he had very little faith in my math-related skills.
Your attention would wander after you get to about 6. And,
there we go.
Things.
Oh, look, a big dog with a fluffy tail.
Squirrel. All right, before we get started, let's do a quick shout out to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes over at patreon.com/Jim Hill Media, including Michael Poremski, Sally Wallace, Ben Ige, Rachel Hamlers, Scott Gillespie, and Taylor Graff. Jim, this is the team planning a surprise July 4th start to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. The combined event will feature a random Hall of Presidents characters swapped in with the hitchhiking ghosts, Country Bear Jamboree playing the Monster Mash on repeat, and a new parade theme, Mickey's Boo S.A., with the Headless Horseman carrying sparklers down Main Street. True story.
I'm not going to lie, Len. This sounds very appealing.
Mickey's Boo S.A. is kind of clever. I mean, come on.
I enjoy that. I really enjoy that.
All right, Jim, let's do the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is sponsored by UnlockedMagic.com from our friends at DVCRentalStore.com. What's better than 2 pounds of Halloween candy from the Magic Kingdom? 2 pounds of candy you got at a discount from UnlockedMagic.com, which has better prices than Disney and all kinds of theme park tickets. So get your pillowcases ready for all the treats and visit UnlockedMagic.com now for great deals on Disney theme park admission. All right, Jim, let's start with the news from Walt Disney World. First thing that we heard this week, a new snack cart is coming to the Rock and Roller Coaster Plaza. This one is called Food with lines through the O's because it's by Swedish Chef. And so it'll have a new menu and new snacks out soon. Jim, you gotta love the theming on this one. Food.
Oh, and to be honest, I have to say, the more I learn about what Disney is doing with this redo of Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets, I mean, are you hearing the same things about the retail that for the first time in years we're going to get some actually decent Muppet merch inside of the Disney parks?
Oh, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my my Muppets Mayhem shirt for my first ride, which I have a preview on Thursday, so we'll see.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. But yeah, supposedly that the combination of what they've done with the pre-show, and by the way, quick aside here, because on a recent show you shared Weird Al Yankovic's what he said about the honor of being
an
part
actual
of the
quote from Weird Al, yes.
There we go. Did you see Weird Al is coming to Broadway? They're doing a stage version of Dare to Be Stupid.
Oh, I know what I'm doing every Tuesday and Thursday night in June. When is it starting?
Well, no, I mean they literally announced it that he's working with a team to develop the show for Broadway. In fact, it's Alex Timber, the hotshot director, who's actually writing herd on this thing. So,
fantastic! All right, I know some people in the theater business. I might see if I can get a screening of that. That might be fun.
Cool. All right, but yeah, just the fact that it just sounds like this side of the park is in a lot of ways going to be what Muppets Muppet Studios should have been, a place where you get Muppet food and merch and have a Muppet ride experience. So very, very much looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I mean, if that's what we get, right? And eventually, if we get the theater behind Rock and Roller Coaster to be Muppets themed instead of villains themed, I think that we could get our eventual, nice Muppet courtyard.
Yeah, that only took us, what, since 1990, 91?
Yeah, it's fine. These things take time. It's fine.
All right.
All right, Jim, other news. Did you see that the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party for Halloween, which is on a Saturday this year, has sold out already? Sold out opening day?
Wow. Okay.
At $229. I mean, so it tells you that there's demand for these parties.
I know. You're not wrong. Just, again, going to be interesting to see what goes clean next.
Exactly. Speaking of crowds, Disney's announced that a virtual queue will be in place to visit Bluey's World at Disney's Animal Kingdom when that opens next week. You'll need a virtual queue, I believe, to get on the Wildlife Express train. Disney says they'll expect to return to a standby queue at some point. Also, Jim, I don't think this has been announced, but I think odds are better than even that we're going to see things like kangaroos and wallabies at the petting zoo. Mm-hmm. Also, I would expect there to be enhanced capacity and offerings at the child care center. So there's going to be way more demand with parents with small children there. So expect, plenty of diapers and formula and stuff like that at that child care center in Conservation Station. But virtual queues.
Yeah, well, what's interesting, again, Mr. Schul and I were talking about this just the other day, and evidently this comes on the heels of the crazy demand out in Anaheim. Right. Basically, as the story goes, the folks in California, after the first couple of weeks of dealing with Bluey at Disneyland, reached out to the folks at Animal Kingdom and said, okay, remember what you thought you'd get for this show? Triple that. Yeah. And then figure out how to handle that crowd in that park. And this is why we get the virtual queue.
And I think part of it, too, is the combination of where Disney chose for this location. If they had put it on Discovery Island, if they had put it in Asia, if they put it in Africa, anywhere else where people could just walk there, you would have a lot more people, sure, but you could put a line in and sort of do that. The thing with Conservation Station is every single aspect of that part of the park is so limited in capacity that you can't host popular things there without a virtual queue. I mean, the Wildlife Express train holds, 140 people?
Oh, if that. Remember, you're not talking about just 140 people. You're talking about these are parents of young children, so strollers, diaper bags.
Right. Extra space, yeah.
Oh, God. And Len, here's the part that people need to remember. This isn't even the popular year for Bluey. It's next year when the Disney released Bluey film goes theatrical that they anticipate that this will really catch fire. So, what's going to be fascinating for me is to watch on the heels of how this first summer goes with Bluey at Disney's Animal Kingdom, what changes are made to be ready for the summer of 2027 when again, this becomes super, super, super popular.
Jim, if it gets to that point, right, would you think Disney would consider moving something like Feathered Friends in Flight and replacing it with the Bluey show? I mean, you could make an argument that Asia-ish. I know Australia is not Asia, but
No, you're not wrong, Len. I would anticipate that if this is as popular as they seem to think it's going to be, they will move at speed and they will find some place in this park, especially on the heels of, remember, we're still down capacity wise in a big way at this park. I mean, yes, Encanto and the Tropical America will start to come online later this year, early 2027. But Indy's, out of the running for a year or more, easy.
Yeah, right.
So that it'll be interesting to see year 2 with Bluey, what they do to try to make this easier for, and again, that's the thing. It's parents with toddlers.
Yeah.
And crabby people don't buy $55 sweatshirts for their children.
Yeah, that's the thing. I will say they've got one other option if they don't want to use Conservation Station for it, Jim. And that is, let me point out, there is a large patch of seating and a water performance area right in Asia. I'm just going to throw out two ideas for you here, right? Rivers of Bluey.
There we go. I love
then
it.
Bluey Tales, the kite event, right?
Well, all right. I'm not so sure about that one, but yeah, I mean that's a space right there.
Rivers
right
of
there.
Bluey. I'm just saying. Okay, all right. A couple of other things from Walt Disney World. The Magic Kingdom's Let the Magic Begin show has ended its run after 9 years. The show audio is still played, but the characters and performers are gone. Jim, I think this is just a simple cost-cutting move. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is an interesting year for the Walt Disney World Resort, with the notion of how disruptive what's going on with the economy. And it just, when you talk with folks at the park, there are just some interesting cost-cutting initiatives underway. And, also, not for nothing, it was a 9-year-old show.
That's true. And I don't know how many people were actually watching the show versus running to their first attraction. So you got to think it wasn't something that people were lingering over, right?
No.
All right, Jim. Well, we hope the performers find something else to do, and I'm sure with all the stuff that's coming up, they'll have plenty of opportunities. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Jim. I want to tell our listeners about a project I worked on last week. I had a blog post to fill over at touringplans.com. So I decided to look at the question of what's the best day of the week to visit the Magic Kingdom for low ride wait times. And the answer is kind of interesting because like any question you ask about a large set of data, the answer always begins with it depends. I'll walk you through it. I started with 22 million wait times that we've collected in the Magic Kingdom since 2015. So basically every ride that has a posted wait time in My Disney Experience, we collect every couple of minutes through the My Disney Experience app. And the first thing I did is I looked at those wait times, and that gave me one set of results. But in step 2, I decided that things like Swiss Family Treehouse always has a constant posted wait time of somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes on average over any length of time that you care about. So like Swiss Family Treehouse's posted wait time not only doesn't really tell you anything about crowds, but because when you include it in the averages, it actually brings all the numbers closer together. It tends to confuse or make it harder to detect which weekdays are better. So I threw out rides like Swiss Family Treehouse, the Walt Disney World Railroad, Enchanted Tiki Room, Country Bear Jamboree, a couple of minor character readings and stuff like that, because you wanted to see more separation to see if the trend was easily identifiable. Next thing I did is I only considered wait times between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. when the park is most crowded, because times at 9 a.m. and times at midnight don't really tell you anything. They're so low. And again, that smushes the averages together, and you don't want that when you're trying to find differences, right? The next thing I did was I only considered data after July 1st, 2024, which is when I think Disney's new DAS rules were completely in effect.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. So they started in May of 2024, but families who booked their trips earlier with DAS were grandfathered in. So July is a decent start date. And we know from things that Disney said in court that people who use guest assistance cards, and presumably DAS as well, ride different sets of rides than other people. So you have to factor that sort of in.
Okay.
And then the last thing that I looked at was this. Tease off the Halloween conversation we were having earlier in the show. If you look at the number of Halloween and Christmas parties that are held in August through December of this year, it's 63 days of parties. And of those 63 parties, almost 80% of them happen on 3 days of the week.
Yeah.
Which tends to skew the calendar or skew their wait times so much that it actually affects the full year results for average wait times per day. So you actually have to break things out by, are you going during a month with a party or are you not?
Wow.
So you do the analysis, you break it out this way. Here's what it comes down to. If you're going January through July, the absolute best day of the week to go is Sunday, where your average wait for those popular rides midday is going to be around 31 minutes. Almost all the rest of the days, Saturday, Wednesday, Monday, Thursday, are sort of in the same area. Saturday's a little bit better than Friday, but in general, they're all pretty much the same. And then Tuesday's the worst day of the week to go. And the difference there is like 37 minutes versus 31. So 6 minutes a ride, you do 20 rides. I feel like that's significant. That's 2 hours, right? I can see that.
Okay.
That's that's January through July. But if you're going August through December, most of the parties are going to be on like Fridays, Tuesdays, Sundays, or Thursdays, right? And they're not going to be on Saturdays. Saturdays generally the makeup day in the Magic Kingdom, where Disney's going to keep the park open very, very late to compensate for closing of the parties. So the best day to go to the Magic Kingdom for low wait times, August through December, is Friday. And then Tuesday's pretty close after that. Sunday and Thursday are pretty decent. But really then there's a huge break between that and like Wednesday, Monday, and Saturday, which are generally not party days. Saturday being the worst day of the week, with a 37-minute wait. So almost a 12-minute wait per ride difference on Friday versus Saturday with parties. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, and for my, again, I'm an old fart. I've been going into the park since the 70s. And the notion of, wasn't it the old school of thought that you didn't want to go to the parks on a Sunday or a Friday because that's a travel day when people are en route? So that was folks who were at the resort like, okay, I'm going to the Kingdom on those days because in theory this is a light attendance day, and it actually buried the needle in the other direction?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You'd think that Sunday would be a really popular travel day, but if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data on U.S. domestic travel, Sunday is actually the least busy day for leisure travel. So it's not that. It's very strange, yeah. You can kind of understand how Monday would be sort of a busy day because Monday is the day of the week with the most legal holidays on it. So, you can kind of see that versus like a Thursday, which is basically Thanksgiving, right? So that's really interesting. Yeah, there's something about that. I think the party stuff explains August through December. For January through July, yeah, interesting question.
But, when you lay it out the way you did here, and just in the whole notion of 63 days.
It's a lot. Yeah. 63 days over 4 months. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 2 months out of 4 months. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate digging down into this.
Oh, thank you. All right, Jim, let's move to Disneyland real quick. And I have an Autopia question for you here. So Jim, Disney said Autopia is moving to electric cars in 2027. And I note, apropos of absolutely nothing, that the Nissan Leaf was manufactured until October 2025, discontinued. And there's probably a whole bunch of spare batteries sitting around a warehouse somewhere, just screaming out for use. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? The modern batteries on the Leaf have a range of around 200 miles and dimensions something like 6 feet to 6.5 feet long by maybe 5 feet wide. Depends on the number of cells and how you configure them, right? I'm guessing. But the Autopia car wheelbase is probably somewhere between 5 and 6 feet long right now. Does that mean if these things are going electric, do you think we're going to see a completely redesigned car chassis here?
Oh.
It has to be all new cars, right? They're not going to try and retrofit something in.
You're not wrong there. But more to the point with, just think about it, the ripple effect here. If we're going from a 6 to 6.5 foot long vehicle and changing them now to a 5 foot, you're going to have to change the track layout. And let's be honest, Tomorrowland at Disneyland has needed love for decades.
Right.
So, what else might be happening while they're bringing in an all-electric fleet?
It depends on how much range they want out of each vehicle. I was going to do it, and I haven't done it yet. I was going to figure out if, with a 200-mile range, how many laps around the Autopia that is, per car. Like, are you getting a full day out of one charge? Probably not, right? But you can probably get half a day out of those, right? So then the question is like, how many batteries do you have? How many cars do you have? If the cars need to be, let's say, a foot longer to fill in the battery, actually you probably need more than that, because if the battery's 6.5 feet long, you probably need like a 7 foot or 8 foot car for safety barriers and stuff like that. And it's going to be a little bit wider. Does that limit capacity as well?
I mean, this is one of those moments where, where's an industrial engineer when you actually need one?
Exactly. Yeah. All right, fair. All right, Jim, let's talk about Universal Parks real quick. So this is pure speculation, but remember that Universal uses 600 plus drones for its sensational show, right? Okay. And now Lost Continent is closed for a redo. It seems like if Universal wanted to do a drone show over IOA's water, they now have a direct flight path from backstage to bring a drone show to that lagoon if they fly it over a lost continent.
That is interesting because, I mean, remember, and again, I'm dating myself because this goes all the way back to when Universal's second gate was Tooniversal. And it was all of the Warner Brothers IP. And, once upon a time, there was supposed to be a nighttime show where it was literally Metropolis and Gotham City and Batman out on the water in the Batboat. So this water was in the Central Lagoon was placed in that park deliberately to be a nighttime show. And they've never really delivered the goods. So, that would be lovely to finally have a nighttime show in Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, and they could run it temporarily while the land is down to draw people over there. And again, they'd have a way of flying those drones over areas that are not populated by guests. It seems like that would be a quick win.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just an idea. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right, Jim, on to surveys. Our friend Kelston sends in a Universal Orlando survey that asks a question I don't think we've ever seen before. And the question is this: do you own any pets? If so, what kind? Please select all that apply. And the first answer is reptiles, snakes, lizards, or turtles. Then birds, dogs, cats, small mammals like hamsters, guinea pigs, and rabbits, fish, and I do not own any pets. So, Jim, ostensibly I could see a question like, do you own pets, maybe for marketing purposes or whatever. Why the specificity in what kind of pet you own?
Okay.
What is going on here with this question?
I'm just going to put this out there because you and I, when we were out on the West Coast with Mr. Schul at Universal Studios Hollywood, did experience the Secret Life of Pets off the leash dark ride.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ride, yeah.
Which has not traveled east yet. And what's kind of interesting is, again, in the world of animation these days, it's all about doing sequels and prequels. And, for example, next summer we have, this summer we have Toy Story 5. Next summer, Universal has Shrek 5. We had Pixar only just recently revealed that they've got a Monsters, Inc. 3 in the works. So one would wonder if perhaps Universal, through its Illuminations division, is circling back on doing a third Secret Life of Pets film, and more to the point, maybe they're trying to gauge whether or not pet owners might want to see that Secret Life of Pets off the leash ride in Florida. I would love to have seen the follow-up question to this in the survey. What branched off of, which, do you own any pets?
Yeah, I don't think there was another pet question on here, but you got to wonder if there's going to be a follow-up from Universal about this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Also, I would like to see the Secret Life of Marmots as a ride in Universal Studios Florida. On to listener questions. Here's one from Katie who says, I know that they're putting in face recognition stations at the Epic Universe portals, and the rumor is they'll open Celestial Park to anyone while keeping the portals only open to day guests with tickets. My question is, why wouldn't Universal open the portals to annual pass holders in the evening, say after 6 o'clock? Epic empties out pretty early and wait times drop, so it seems like it would be a good compromise to appease AP holders and get more people into dining. And yeah, that's true. But Jim, what do you think?
Well, what's interesting about this, Len, is, in fact, Eric Hersey and I just covered this over on the Epic Universal podcast, but it turns out this month there is a convention being held at the Orange County Convention Center where they had, the attendees were actually sent an invite to come to the park at night to experience Celestial Park.
Really? A test run?
Yeah. I mean, it's not theoretical anymore. They literally
I love when we experiment on actual human beings. I think that's fantastic.
So
IRB review, what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Again, just and remember, back in the day when they first talked about building this park so close to the Orange County Convention Center, was we want to capture folks who are attending events at the convention center across the way, with the idea that they finish the day at their convention events, they come here, they have dinner, they watch a show in the center of the park, they have a couple of drinks. Yeah, the beauty part of it is you get all of that revenue at a time when the park was traditionally kind of emptying out, that people headed back to their hotels. So, but again, we need to keep an eye on this first test group and just sort of a sense of, so what does Universal do going forward here? Do they just target folks who are actually in events, at the Orange County Convention Center, or as you said, do they make this available for the annual pass holders to come in as well?
I think the thing with annual pass holders is there's so many of them that there would be such demand for it as well that Universal would have to institute some sort of reservation system, which they really, 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 really don't want to do. Okay. Also, they're still selling tickets to annual pass holders who want to see Epic.
Yes,
and I think there's a revenue. So there's a revenue and a capacity issue here that has to be balanced. And I think right now that doesn't work in favor of annual pass holders. So that's probably why, Katie.
All true. All true.
All right, here's an email from Joe who says, great interview last week with Roland Betancourt on the Disney Dish. Just have to pass along, there's a whole different definition of naming PLCs, programmable logic controllers, FRED. To keep it family friendly, let's say the acronym stands for Flippin' Ridiculous Electronic Device.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. That was
great.
There we
go. Mm-hmm.
And last one's from Matt, who says, this is in reference to, I guess we talked about milk labeling.
We did.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Got a bunch of emails in this one. Anyway, Matt says, milk labeling has teed me off since I could do math. Skim milk is anything under 0.5% milk fat, and 1% is considered low fat. But when I was a child in the early 90s, 2% milk was branded as half fat, which automatically makes 1% a quarter fat, leaving the 3% fat market completely ignored, but it makes whole milk 4%. I didn't invent math, I just wheeled it. And so Matt and I went down a rabbit hole here, Jim, as you can imagine, with stuff like this. According to the Code of Federal Regulations, the FDA thing governing this, Title 21, Part 131, anything above 3.25% milk fat is considered whole milk. And that's probably why the half-fat label got tossed. But Matt also points out that half and half is only 10 to 18% milk fat. And Jim, you wonder why American students are bad at math? It's because they're surrounded by nonsense like this while they're eating breakfast before school every morning, right? If half and half is 18%, what's the other half, and how do you get to 100%, right? Pop-Tarts, Jim, aren't this confusing? That's all I'm saying.
I forget the comic that actually does this piece of material, but I always loved it, that the reasons that Americans are such poor students gets tied back to breakfast. I mean, think about it. In the UK, you have an English muffin. When you're in France, you have French toast. Here in the United States, what do you have? Glazed donuts, scrambled eggs. How is it we retain any information?
I don't. That's clearly what it is. We have to up our game. I think Pop-Tarts are where it's at.
There we go.
All right, fair. Also, Jim, a really interesting patent from Universal Creative I just want to touch on right here. And I've put the image itself in the show notes. The patent is titled System and Method for an Onboard Animated Figure in a Ride Environment. And the image on the patent, Jim, shows a four-person ride vehicle, so 2 rows of 2 people, little wheels on the side vehicle, and you're viewing it from the side. But Jim, there's a giant frog crawling up the front of the ride vehicle. It starts below the hood of the ride vehicle, where I guess guests can't see it, obviously. But then it supposedly crawls up during the ride. Jim, what? A, frogs seem like Harry Potter, but B, what are we doing here?
Silent, little prayer here that, Len, please let this not be a Walking Dead-based attraction. Because if a zombie crawls up the hood at me while I'm on a ride, I am climbing out of the ride vehicle.
And getting off, yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. Nope, done. Yeah, time to go. Look at the time. Out of here. All right, if anybody knows what this is for, let us know, please.
Okay.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim gives us the history of a Disneyland ticket scandal and more. We'll be right back.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Beneful. Dogs of the world, lend me your ears, snoots, and little toe beans. We've been sitting and staying for boring food for too long. It's time to demand high-quality ingredients, fresh from the pantry. Together with Beneful freshly prepared meals, we can start a mealtime revolution. Can I get a woof woof? Kick boring in the bowl with Beneful freshly prepared meals. Visit Purina.com/Beneful to shop now.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And we're back. All right, Jim, this actually tees off of the show we did a couple of weeks ago about the Maxwell House Hotel, right?
We did. And again, that was where the original Disneyland Coffee House was located. From December of 55 through the fall of 57 was Maxwell House, and then from 58 through 75, Hills Brothers took over the operation here. Okay. And this was the restaurant that looked into Town Square. In fact, during the Hills Brothers operation, they actually expanded it. They moved into, what was it, the Site of Future Sites building right next door, and turned that into an outdoor patio. And we bring that up because well, you know, somebody pointed out that in the Leslie Iwerks Disneyland Handcrafted documentary that debuted on Disney Plus back in January of this year, that you actually can see the yet to be finished Maxwell House restaurant. Remember, that doesn't open till actually December of that year. But what's interesting is they show the Disneyland characters, the ones that they borrowed from, you know, Shipstead and Johnson's Ice Capades to be in the opening. But the point that they gather where they enter the parade is right in front of the Maxwell House place. But folks, you may recall when Len and I first talked about Leslie's wonderful Disneyland handcrafted thing, that Len and I, you and I both noticed that on the stuff for Dateline Disneyland, the live broadcast in the park, there was at one point they showed the mound of trash in the streets in the park because, well, that's the thing. You have to finish building a theme park to then learn how to actually operate the theme park. And you know, Disney just wasn't ready for the crowds that showed up that day and you know, to deal with that level of trash. But again, remember the reason that they had the problem at that opening party, the live broadcast on ABC, was that Walt had originally only wanted 15,000 people to come to the event.
Which is not a lot of people for Disneyland today.
No,
but back
not
in
at
the
all.
day, back in the day, you know, they're doing capacity numbers, right? Their park wasn't built out. 15,000 sounds like might be a lot. Okay, fair.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to understand that this was going to be a live broadcast on ABC. More to the point, there were 29 different cameras that were, you know, had to move around the park. So the whole notion is we want enough people in the park so it looks populated, but we also want to be able to do this 90-minute long live broadcast. Now, what they weren't ready for was the fact that on that day, 28,000 people showed up. And now, some of these, Len, were actual gate crashers. In fact, there's a story about an enterprising individual with a ladder who went to the berm and effectively laid the ladder down and charged people $5 to climb the ladder and enter the park that way.
You know, entrepreneurship, Jim, has always been a part of Southern California culture.
There we go. But here's the thing: the rest of those folks who got into the park,
10,000 people aren't climbing over a ladder. But go ahead.
No. In fact, what was very confusing for the folks out at the main gate at Disneyland was that, again, we were playing on 15,000, and here are 28,000. But we are standing out front, accepting the invitations, and the thing is, there are no obvious forgeries, Len. These all look legit.
Ooh. So they're paper invitations printed like a wedding invitation.
There we go.
And they printed 15,000 and 28,000 of them showed up.
Yeah. And this is the thing that as the story goes, that the week before Disneyland opens, there were people in LA who would get offered an invite to Disneyland's grand opening. It's like, give me $50 and this will get you in.
$50 in 1955 money?
Yeah, and that's $600, the equivalent in 2026. Now, mind you, day of, when frankly they need to move these things, evidently same thing. There were people literally on street corners in LA like, hey, you want to ride to Disneyland? Give me $10, and that in 2026 dollars is $121. So anyway, it's after the party. And this is the thing, Disney is now doing an investigation after the fact, and it's just sort of like they're going through thousands of these things, and it's like, I can't find the forgeries.
Right. It's not like they printed it on, the kind of paper that U.S. currency is printed on with, red and blue fibers in it. Yeah. By the way, we should really talk about the counterfeiting of Disney dollars at some point and all the anti-counterfeit devices that went into Disney dollars towards the end. But go ahead. All right. Separate topic. Go ahead.
All right. But anyway, so again, they're doing this after action thing in late summer, early fall. Looking at all these invitations that came in, and it's the same cardstock, Len. It's the same ink. So now, disquieting question. So is what happened for the live broadcast of the Dateline Disneyland thing, is this an inside job?
Ooh.
All right. So, and I bring this up because one of the very first companies to invest in Walt's Family Fun Park was the Western Publishing and Lithography Company. Based in Racine, Wisconsin. By the way, this is the company that published Disney-themed comic books as well as storybooks for children, and they had been in business with Walt for a number of years, which is why when he reached out in 1952, in fact, among the very first people that Walt went to invest in Disneyland Inc., they happily put up $200,000, which then got them 13.8% of Disneyland Inc. And and in recognition of being among the first folks through the door to support Walt's dream, Western Publishing did get a few perks. They got the right to operate a bookstore right there on Main Street, USA, the Arcade bookstore, which, by the way, located behind the Upjohn's Pharmacy at Disneyland, and that store was stocked with tons of Western Publishing Disney-related items, puzzles, board games, and of course comic books. But the other thing, Len, that they got by being an early investor in Walt's Family Fun Park was they then became the official Disneyland publisher, the printer.
Oh, so park maps.
That's it, exactly.
Okay.
Menus.
Right, yeah.
Now, mind you, this is time consuming. You have to send something to Racine, Wisconsin, and they print it and they ship it back, so it's labor intensive as well. But it's a quality product, and they did good work. But here's the thing, Len. Western Publishing was not just Disneyland's, one of Disneyland's first investors. It was also one of the very first companies that Walt bought out.
Oh.
Could that have been because of what happened on Dateline Disneyland, the live broadcast? We'll get to that part of the story in a sec. But first, this.
You may think you know McDonald's drinks, but you don't know them like this. From fruity refreshers like the Strawberry Watermelon Refresher and the Mango Pineapple Refresher with popping boba, to crafted sodas like the Sprite Berry Blast with berry-flavored Sprite topped with cold foam. Who knew ice-cold drinks could be so fire? 6 all-new drinks are here. Try them all, now at McDonald's. Refreshers contain caffeine.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
And we're back. All right, folks. So we're telling the story of the Dateline Disneyland live broadcast. The 28,000 people who showed up, as opposed to the 15,000 that Walt had invited. And Len, look, this isn't a story that the company likes to talk about. In fact, it's kind of like the whole C.V. Wood situation.
Right.
We've talked about him on the show here. First vice president and general manager of the park, was crucial to the construction of Disneyland in 54, 55, but he was let go under mysterious circumstances in January of 1956. And here's the thing, folks. When he was let go on a Friday, the following Monday, CV set up Marco Engineering, which was a company that built Disneyland-like parks, and proceeded to go around the country promoting CV as the master builder of Disneyland. And this is how we got Freedom Land in the Bronx and Pleasure Island just outside of Boston. And Walt Disney was so personally offended by the fact that CV Wood was out there doing this, and more to the point, promoting himself as the master builder of Disneyland. That's actually what he had on his business cards. That Walt Disney Productions actually took C.V. Wood to court in 61 and forced him to stop saying that.
Wow.
But again, this is the thing. Nobody in the company, and it's been 70 years, Len, since this guy was let go, but they still don't want to talk about it.
I mean, nobody's alive, are they?
Well, actually, there is at least one person, Disney legend Bob Gurr, who, by the way, will turn 95 this October. And Bob has become somewhat famous at saying the quiet part out loud at Disney fan events, and whereas everybody else who works for the company is circumspect about C.V. Wood, Bob makes no bones about it. Like, Wood was a crook.
All right. Okay.
But I bring that up because the other thing that Disney just does not still want to talk about, and again, this is years after the fact, is Walt's decision to buy out Western Publishing in 1959. And again, 67 years ago. And when asked, what official spokesman for the company will say, well, like, look, Walt wanted to get back control of his park, the thing that he created. So this is why in 59 he buys out Western Publishing, and then at 61 he buys out ABC. But Len, here's the thing: 1959 is a very expensive year in Disneyland history. I got to remember June of this year is when the 147-foot tall Matterhorn Mountain with its bobsled ride gets added to the park. That opens June 14th. Same day, Submarine Line comes on line. And by the way, the monorail, same thing. In fact...
okay. All right.
Speaking of which, Bob tells this wonderful story about then Vice President Richard Nixon, comes out to Disneyland, and he's there with Walt, along with his wife Pat and his two daughters Tricia and Julie, and they cut the ribbon, and then everybody climbed in the monorail. And because the monorail is so new, Walt only entrusts Bob to run it. So he's up in the dome at the top of it, and they fire it up and they take it for a lap around the park. And the Nixon daughters are having such a good time, they turn to their dad and go, again, Daddy.
Again. How do you tell a child no at Disneyland?
Well,
Jim?
no, that's it exactly. So Nixon turns to Walt, and Walt's like, turns to Bob and goes, okay, do it again. But Bob is the one up in the plastic bubble. Bob is the one who can see, into the load-unload area where Nixon's Secret Service team is standing.
Yeah, and he's trying frantically to signal, like, we're going to go around again, and you guys are going to be okay with it.
And that's the thing. They were not. In fact, they ran alongside the monorail, which is going 30 miles an hour, by the way, and tried to climb on it. And the whole time, Bob is now taking the Nixon girls around for another lap at Disneyland. He's like, I'm going to jail.
Going to jail. They can shoot me. I'm in this bubble. They can shoot me right here.
That's exactly. I'm the easy target. So, thank goodness Nixon, when they pulled into the station, smoothed things over with the Secret Service people who were not happy with Bob.
I can imagine. Yeah. Spontaneity and the Secret Service generally don't go together really, really well. Not a thing. Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Okay, so 1959, we're building a bunch of stuff at the park. Okay.
But also, worth noting, January of 1959 is when Sleeping Beauty comes out. Sleeping Beauty had been in production for 8 years. It cost $6 million to make. Len, it's out in theaters January 59. It doesn't cover its production costs. In fact, it does so poorly at the box office that, and again, this is astounding, but this is true, folks. It was such a drag on Disney's earnings that year that for the first time since Disneyland opened in 55, in the next annual report, Walt Disney Productions had to report a loss for the fiscal year.
Wow.
So 1959 is already a very expensive year for the Disney company. Between the losses associated with Sleeping Beauty, between the cost of adding the stuff to Disneyland. And so this is the year that Walt decides, with all of that already going on, that we need to buy out Western Publishing. We need to buy back their 13.8%. And it's like, that doesn't make sense fiscally. Why would
you could argue that if the spending and the loss made the stock price artificially depressed, you could say they were buying the company back at a discount.
Okay, all true. But here's the thing. The story that has been told to me over the years is that just that whole thing that happened on July 17th, the Dateline Disneyland, the enormous crowds, it was something Walt just would not let go of. And, he turned it over to his brother Roy, who in turn hired former FBI agents who were familiar with counterfeiting. They launch an investigation, and eventually they come back to the Disney brothers and say, look, I'm sorry, but we've determined between investigating, going through these thousands of invitations that you guys collected at the front gate, it's the same cardstock. It's the same ink.
Oh.
All right. These had to have come from the machines in Racine, Wisconsin. This is something that someone at Western Publishing did.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that might have sealed the deal and the partnership there.
And what's fascinating about this, though, is that day at Disneyland, which eventually inside of the company became known as Black Sunday, in order to recover from that, because the people forget. If you go and look at the actual day of coverage of the opening of Disneyland, it was miserable, particularly the print reporters, Len. What the Disney company had to do to turn that around over the first year or two of operation at Disneyland was to invite each reporter back with their families and do an individual visit where they walked them around the park. They showed, look, there are no piles of trash. There are no rides breaking down. And it took years and tens of thousands of dollars to turn the reputation around. And in Walt's mind, the fact that somebody at Western Publishing not only profited from this, but caused a great expense. So that was the thing. Now, mind you, Walt is angry, but is not so angry or so stupid as to break off the company's publishing deal. I mean, the comic books are still selling tremendously. The games, the puzzles. It's just the notion of, look, I just don't want these people profiting from Disneyland. So we have to buy them out. And Roy supposedly turns to his brother and says, Walt, it's not a good year to be doing this. Between Sleeping Beauty and between the expense of the park, and I don't care. Buy Western Publishing out now. Yeah. But you got to remember, back then, this was how Walt Disney Productions was. It was really all about keeping one man happy. And back in the 50s and the 60s, that one man was Walt Disney.
Yep.
But anyway, speaking of one man and publishing, on next week's Disney Dish, Len and I are going to be talking with Todd Martins of the Los Angeles Times. He's just launched a brand new theme park newsletter, Mr. Todd's Wild Ride. You got to love that name.
Ooh, love it, yes.
But so Len and I, on next week's show, hope to talk with Todd about, well, the changes that have just recently been made to the Anaheim version of Black Spire Outpost, and how the characters from the original Star Wars film trilogy are now appearing in Batuu, and how Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is about to get a brand new ride film featuring the Mandalorian and Grogu, which, by the way, arrives in theaters tail end of this week, Friday, May 22nd.
Fantastic. That's going to be so much fun. I really like Todd a lot. I've talked to him a number of times. He's really, really smart, and he has really great insights on theme parks.
Can't wait. All
right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over to patreon.com/JimHaleMedia, where our latest exclusive show is a walk around Animal Kingdom looking at Zootopia and the park's next big bets. And there's a link in the show notes. Disney Journey is the YouTube channel of friend of the show, Jim Scholl, where he regularly releases videos about the Disney parks produced from his unique perspective as a former Disney Imagineer. His recent shows are why Zootopia may replace Avatar in DCA, and how Coco is being fitted into a tiny land plot on Pixar Pier. Give Disney Journey a watch using the link in the show notes. And you can find more of Jim at JimHaleMedia.com and more of me, Len, at TouringPlans.com. Also, check out The Case For with Chris Cox, a new podcast where Chris, Jim, and I debate one theme park topic at a time, and you get to vote on who's right. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, who'll be wearing matching outfits all weekend long at the 2026 Twins Day Festival, which I've really been to with my twin sister, running August 7th to the 9th, 2026, at Glen Chamberlain Park, that's off Ravenna Road, by the Community Center in beautiful downtown Twinsburg, Ohio. Wow. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Full Year Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.